Would you listen to, who would you take advice from if another healthcare crisis came up while you were governor?
I think there's numerous experts across the nation. I think we have some at the University of Minnesota that would have disagreed with Tim Walz. I think it's oversimplification to say that everybody's with Tim. The MMA, the Minnesota Medical Association, is a liberal organization, and they have less than, I think, 20 or 30% of the physicians in Minnesota belonging to it. And I don't know that they've ever endorsed a Republican. Tim just called it this nonsense. Well, this nonsense is what's going on right now as we're talking about, was there value in lockdowns? There's people out there trying to have an intelligent conversation. Harvey Reich out of Yale, highly respected. Johnny Unitas out of Stanford. Dr. Atlas, Peter McCullough. There are people all over. And there's Denmark and Norway have stopped the vaccination programs for under the age of 20 and under the age of 50. So I think to oversimplify it is a mistake. Tim said he was with someone who had 800 people on ventilators last night. 200 of them died. Well, that doctor did quite well, because generally when we put someone on a ventilator, we expect about a 30% death rate, and he just reported a 25% death rate. But when we were putting people on the ventilators too casually at the beginning of this disease, if you remember that, literally the death rate was 80%. It was literally, for the patient perspective, if you were put on a ventilator for COVID, you had a 4 out of 5 chance of dying. That's why people were so desperate to stay out of the hospital. It's going to take some time for us to see the dust settle.
Isn't that because of COVID? I mean,
yeah,
COVID was a deadly problem.
No, the ventilator was a deadly problem. We actually reduced death rates once we stopped using the ventilators, once we started going more to anti-inflammatories, antibiotics potentially, but definitely prednisone, steroids, things like that. But what we found was that we were using the normal parameters to utilize ventilators, and we realized that what we needed to do was not use ventilators where you're putting more pressure behind it, but instead increase the oxygen concentration. We learned throughout this process